Good morning, Rothlings. Rospace here. I'll be with you in a sec. I need to grab a cup of coffee. But go ahead and ask your questions, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. No coffee, but it's brewing. Let's see. So here we've got, what is this, Starlink 5? The 6th batch of Starlinks. Would have been really convenient if they matched the number with the actual, number. But we'll just have to, I guess for the rest of our lives, we'll just have to add one to the mission number to get the number of launches they've done. Because the first one was a quote-unquote test launch. Let's see here. So I've been having some strange technical issues this morning. The Starman server, or the Starman streaming server, the antivirus software is going totally nuts, and so all night long, I presume, the Starman stream has been super laggy. I just noticed it this morning, but right now, y'all are my priority, so I'll deal with Starman later. Roger Sigmon, and let's see. I thought I saw two people mention North Carolina. Maybe it was just, oh, Robin and Roger. Huh. Well, I'm in North Carolina too. So, hi guys. Ooh. Moderator Mark Deser asks when we can expect the last batch of Starlink satellites. Well, their pace of launch is a little bit slower than I think they had hoped for, but it's still quite aggressive in terms of, in comparison to other launch providers. I mean, they're doing a lot of Starlink launches. I don't remember exactly, how many weeks between launches, but I think we can expect that, well, number one, so the pace is a little slower than expected. Number two, it kind of remains to be seen how many satellites they ultimately launch, whether it's, a few thousand or 12,000 as originally planned or 42,000 as they later proposed. So I think we can expect to continue seeing Starlink launches unless something happens and they find that the program is, unless they give up on it, which wouldn't make any sense. But if it's costing them too much money and it's not being successful, they might reevaluate the program at some point in the future. But in any case, I think we can expect to see Starlink launches, well after the middle of the decade. So, so maybe 28, 29, maybe even 2030. Depending on a number of factors, including the viability of the program and whether they're able to increase the pace of launches from its already fairly aggressive pace. Ross Roscoe asks when Falcon Heavy will launch again. I don't specifically know, but let me see. Okay, so according to nextrocket.space, which gets their data from launchlibrary.net, the next Falcon Heavy launch will be potentially this September. And then after that in December, and then in 2022. Oh, also in about a year from now, in February 2021. Of course, launch dates get pushed out all the time. That's more the norm than the exception. But yeah, so you can look forward to a Falcon Heavy possibly this September. Peter Filippone, Charlotte, North Carolina. That's, what in the world? We've got a whole bunch of Carolinians here. Yeah, I'm near Charlotte myself. And Liverpool, UK. Very cool. Always good to have an international audience, which is pretty much guaranteed around here. But a pub crawl. I'll let y'all crawl. I'll be the designated driver. Sao Paulo, welcome, Maria, once again. Thailand. Yes. Go Marilyn Monrocket, J-Dan. Stephen Plank, manned mission to Mars still scheduled for 2024. We are definitely not getting to Mars by 2024. We might get to the moon by 2024 if we're lucky. I expect that realistically speaking, the moon mission, Artemis, will probably get delayed by at least a couple of years, but they're still pushing for 2024. I think they have a long ways to go with the SLS rocket, but and the other systems that they'll need, the lander and so on. But we shall see. Now, Mars, I think, will be, as much as we all want to get to Mars, at least to visit, I think Mars will be a number of years off. We might get to Mars by It's conceivable we could get to Mars in the next 10 years, but there are some big hurdles to overcome. I mean, we know that we can survive in zero gravity for many months at a time. We've done that in Earth orbit, but the radiation outside of the protective shield of Earth's magnetosphere is a serious concern. And whatever spaceship they design to go to Mars will have to take that into account, because not just the solar radiation, but the cosmic rays are just brutal. Space Ace, thank you for the shout out, the plug. Geo John is asking how many times. I think he may have meant how long. The countdown timer is at the top of the video. Hello, Microbyte. Welcome once again. Ooh, Elizabeth's in Titusville, so she's going to watch the launch in person, which Microbyte usually does from a distance. But one of these days, I do plan to do a live stream from the Cape. I know there's a lot of other guys down there with their, cameras all set up and trained on the launch pad, but I've never actually seen a rocket launch myself in person, so I need to. As a matter of fact, I'm considering the possibility of moving to Florida, which would mean that I can provide a lot more sort of live coverage on location. Lukman Bukenya asks, how is SpaceX planning to manufacture food at Mars or any other planet? So as far as food, we've got a couple options. We're going to bring the vast majority of it with us, in packages, similar to how they do on the space station, though they may be a more compact variety because, it's a longer trip. We need a lot more delta V to get mass to Mars than we do to low Earth orbit. So we're going to bring most of the food with us. We're going to bring a bunch of water with us. So water is an interesting one because we use water to drink, obviously. We also use water to generate our oxygen because H2O contains oxygen. And so on the space station, they actually they ship up water because water is much denser than air. And then they process that water and they pull the oxygen out of it through chemical processes or chemical electrical processes. And so water is actually where we get our air, which is pretty cool. And the other thing is water is also a great, it's very good at absorbing radiation. And so water is actually an excellent radiation shield. And so, one concept that a lot of people have thrown around is that we could use water tanks around the outside of the spaceship to, protect the astronauts inside from solar and cosmic radiation. Ross Roscoe asks, how big are these satellites? So Starlink satellites are maybe the size of a pizza box. They're not very big. They're maybe, like a large pizza box. They're quite flat, and they stack them up. let's see. So the payload fairing is about 45 feet high, and it is packed solid with the 60 Starlink satellites. So I could look up the dimensions, but just go to Wikipedia. It probably tells you how large they are. But I think about the size of a large pizza box. EJ Carl Domingo asks, what is the mission of Starlink, and what if all the satellites are launched? So the mission is to provide low latency broadband internet to the world. So currently there is satellite internet, but the services are provided by and large by geostationary satellites that are 22,000 miles above the surface of the Earth. So those internet satellite systems have a lot of latency, meaning there's a lot of lag or ping time. By the time the signal gets out 22,000 miles and then back 22,000 miles, you can get decent throughput, but you can expect that a satellite internet connection is going to have, maybe a couple hundred milliseconds of latency, which is not ideal. You want it to be down in the tens of milliseconds. So by placing a whole bunch of satellites in low Earth orbit, so the reason why you need a bunch of satellites is because at geostationary orbit, the satellite is visible from a large portion of the hemisphere of Earth that's facing it, because it's far away and it's above the horizon for a large swath of the planet. From almost, like, I think it's 40% or something like that of the planet can see a geostationary satellite. But in low Earth orbit, visibility is restricted to only maybe a couple thousand miles. So in order to provide global coverage, you need many satellites so that from any given location, there are multiple satellites above your horizon that you can communicate with. So the mission is to provide low latency broadband internet service to the far corners of the world that don't currently have it. Ultimately, their customers are going to extend far beyond simply the disenfranchised and the non-digitized. So, for example, there will be groups of Starlink satellites that are allocated for specific customers. Like there will be a set of satellites that are only for servicing the Department of Defense, which, maybe isn't great. But I mean, if they pay SpaceX and they provide them with the capital to keep expanding the service, then the rest of us will ultimately benefit. Let's see. T-Rex or Trex, I'm not sure how you prefer it pronounced, asks if DM2, that is the Crew Dragon, the second Crew Dragon launch, the Crewed Dragon launch could be affected by coronavirus or COVID-19, since COVID-19 is merely a coronavirus. It is not the coronavirus. SARS, MERS, and influenza are also coronaviruses. Anyway, potentially. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Some people call the what's going on with the the canceling events and the prohibiting large gatherings, like, for example, North Carolina public schools. The governor ordered that they be closed for the next 2 weeks because of the virus situation. Other states and school districts are doing the same. My company next week is going to have everybody work from home. So the headquarters, the home office, will be essentially a ghost town. Even though we'll still be working, we'll be doing it remotely. Some people might call it overreaction, especially when you consider that the flu, the regular old flu, kills upwards of 600,000 people in the world every year. And so far we've had, 4,000 COVID-19 deaths, something like that. But you still need to respect respect the virus, because the experts really do know what they're doing, and a little disruption to our schedule is it's not such a big deal. Remember, a few years ago, the United States government shut down for weeks, and we were all fine. In fact, we didn't care. Some services were suspended, but we'll absorb this just like we absorb any other disruption, power outages or whatever else, storms. Elizabeth, thank you for thanking the mods. They always deserve our appreciation for helping to keep the chat clean and constructive. Hello, Monkey Pants 676. Zoki asks, will the Tokyo 2020 Olympics happen? I don't know. If I had a crystal ball, I would be rich. If you have any to spare, please give me one. Australia schools are still open. That's good to hear. Eric Robertson asks, what's the maximum life support capacity of the ISS? So the most people that have ever been on the ISS are, I think, 11, and that's back in the shuttle era. There was a full shuttle crew plus a full ISS crew, and 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, maybe not full, but so the full shuttle crew was 7 people, and the ISS normally accommodates 6, but there have been up to 11, and there could be more. The thing is, they don't have places to sleep. The resources on the station are limited, so it's designed to accommodate long-term occupancy of 6 people. So if there's going to be much more than that for any length of time, I mean, they might have room, but they would need, need the food and stuff to stay there. Toss a coin to your mods. Prague, Czech Republic, welcome, Diko Braz. So, let's see. Who said that? Yes. Station 240 earlier said that, well, I guess 4 minutes earlier, said that the another advantage of the small coverage area of low Earth orbit satellites is that they can make better reuse of limited bandwidth. So, yeah, we've only got one electromagnetic spectrum, and so having multiple satellites to work with at any given time allows you to have much greater capacity to serve lots more people than, say, a geostationary satellite, which is still limited to using the same frequency bands within the electromagnetic spectrum on a single device. Mark says 6 plus 7 equals 13. That is very good math. I commend you on that. I don't know that there was a full ISS crew at the time. I think the max was 11, and it just happened to be that much because normally, whether it's a Soyuz or formerly a space shuttle, would launch in order to deliver additional crew to the space station. So, yeah, I don't know if there were 4 people on the ISS or what. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. But I believe that the max there have ever been on there was 11. J. Dan says, ask how the toilets worked. Well, they are a receptacle for waste, so I imagine they work like any other toilet, except they don't have gravity involved. So they have fans that help. Cisco, not the networking company, the food company, is slowing down operations. Florida, okay. Roger Sigmund asks if Starlink is already being used. I don't think they are live for paying customers yet. They're obviously testing the system. I mean, it's already the largest satellite constellation in existence. So maybe they have a limited set of end users that are helping test out the system. I'm not sure. That's kind of proprietary info. It would be nice to have an insider within SpaceX to answer some of these questions, wouldn't it? Toolman the Tim says 3 days after you run out of food, you don't need toilet paper. Of course, 3 days after you run out of food, you're really freaking hungry. And if you run out of water, well, then you're kind of dead. But yes, if you if you starve yourself, you don't need as much TP. XT100 YT. No, the Earth is not flat, and you bloody well know this. Rick Carson asks if the launch will be across the eastern seaboard. So all launches are over the water for safety reasons. As far as the trajectory, I'm not sure if they're headed north or east or south with this one. Mostly east, I'm sure, because, well, I'm not sure, but I presume that it will be primarily in an easterly trajectory. But I'm not actually sure what direction it's going. But it's not going to fly over the eastern seaboard because from there they'd need to go. I mean, if you look at the way the eastern coast of the United States curves, it would basically need to go northwest in order to stay over land, at least until it got to Maine and stuff. Okay, so there were 13 people. 7 plus 6. Thank you, Gary Stiles and others. Space Ace. So XT100 YT, of course, kids are welcome here as much or more than anybody else. We're here to educate and inspire. Hold on a moment. One moment, please. Okay, we got a live stream starting, so here we go.
SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. My name is Jesse Anderson, and I'm a lead manufacturing engineer here at SpaceX. You're watching a live webcast for our 6th Starlink mission and our 6th mission overall this year in 2020. For those of you who aren't familiar, Starlink is a constellation of satellites that can provide high-speed, low-latency internet all over the globe, particularly in remote or rural areas where connectivity is limited or completely unavailable. Today's mission will also be the first time we are flying a booster for the 5th time. Most recently, this booster flew on our 2nd Starlink mission back in November. In fact, the first missions of 2020 were also carried out by flight-proven Falcon 9s. Just like our first stages, we are also starting to reuse our fairings. Today we are flying a reused fairing which previously flew on our first Starlink mission. We'll also get a brief update on our Starship program and some of the latest developments that production line in Boca Chica, Texas. With that, all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this morning.
Hello, my name is Michael Andrews and I'm a supply chain supervisor here at SpaceX. You're looking at a live view of our Falcon 9 rocket, our 70-meter, 2-stage, liquid-fueled launch vehicle getting ready for liftoff from our 39A launch site at Florida's Kennedy Space Center. While we have some time, let's discuss the components of that vehicle. The bottom 2/3 of it is our first stage. It accelerates the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere to the edge of space with the help of 9 Merlin engines. And today we'll be attempting to recover that first stage for our 5th time on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. It's currently stationed about 350 nautical miles northeast of the Cape. And above that first stage is our second stage. It has a single Merlin engine known as our Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, and it ignites after first stage separation. This second stage will carry our batch of 60 Starlink satellites to an altitude of about 440 kilometers above the Earth's surface. From there, they will use their individual propulsion systems to move up to their operational altitude over time of 550 kilometers. The Falcon 9 you see on the pad there has been loading propellants since T-minus 35 minutes. As a reminder, we use a hybrid mix of rocket-grade kerosene, known as RP1, and super-chilled liquid oxygen, known as LOX, to power the Falcon 9. Currently, our RP1 is nearly fully loaded on the first stage, that bottom 2/3 of the vehicle, and for our second stage, it's fully loaded with RP1. The LOX loading is underway on both stages still, and that will actually continue to be topped off until the last minute of our countdown. And at the very top of the rocket is our stack of 60 Starlink satellites. They're safely enclosed within the 17-foot diameter payload fairing. It's that pointed cone you see at the very top of the rocket. This protects the payload from aerothermal loads, heating, and any kind of contamination during ascent. Now, once we reach the vacuum of space, we no longer need those fairings, and we jettison those 2 halves as the second stage continues on its journey to orbit. As we have in the past, we'll be attempting to recover those 2 fairing pieces again with our 2 recovery ships, Miss Tree and Miss Chief. They're currently positioned in the North Atlantic Ocean off the coast of North Carolina. In terms of weather, we had some fog at Kennedy this morning. You can see it's pretty much all dissipated. Weather conditions are nominal both at ground and upper altitudes. The Air Force range is prepared to support today's mission. So with that, the vehicle, our satellites, weather, and range are all looking green for an on-time liftoff just a few minutes from now.
As I mentioned at the top of the webcast, today's launch will be the first 5th flight of a Falcon 9 booster. And if we land it successfully, it will mark the 51st recovery since we started landing our boosters back in December of 2015. Right now, our turnaround time to refurbish a booster for reflight is roughly 8 weeks. Long term, we hope to continue to drive that turnaround time down even further, with rocket launches looking more similar to commercial air travel, where planes get basic checkouts, get refueled, and then head back out. Reusability is core to our mission here at SpaceX, which brings me to our efforts underway in Boca Chica, Texas. If you've been following our progress, you know SpaceX is currently building and testing its next generation spacecraft called Starship. The site has changed dramatically in just a year as we build up our production line. The local team has executed a variety of tests designed to push the limits of the vehicle. Next up are a series of static fire and short flight tests with our serial number 3 test article, and longer flights with our serial number 4. But ramping up our Starship and Raptor production line is what matters most. The design goal for Starship is 3 flights per day on average, which equates to roughly 100 flights per year at greater than 100 tons per flight. This means every 10 ships would yield 1 megaton per year to orbit. This is a significant effort, and we are looking for highly skilled engineers and welders to help us make this a reality. If you're interested in joining the team, please take a look at spacex.com/careers.
We're currently only 6 minutes from liftoff. Falcon 9 is now moving into its final stages of the countdown. At T-minus 7 minutes, our engine chill process began. This is where we allow a small amount of that super chilled liquid oxygen to flow into the Merlin engine turbopumps prior to the full flow of LOX into the vehicle. This helps us avoid any kind of thermal shocks to our system. Liquid oxygen is also what's creating the white clouds you might see around Falcon 9. We continue to load that super chilled LOX into the stage until just before liftoff. And when that liquid oxygen comes into contact with the ambient air around it, it boils and creates the clouds surrounding the vehicle that you see on your screen. The cradle, or the arms that you see near the top of the vehicle, will begin to open around T-minus 4.5 minutes, followed by the transporter erector, retracting away from the rocket, starting around T-minus 4 minutes. This is only a couple degrees that it moves, so it may be visually imperceptible, but it's enough room for our Falcon 9 to clear the transporter erector during liftoff. The first and second stages are both nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. The first stage should finish prop loading at T-minus 3 minutes, and the second stage right behind it at T-minus 2 minutes. And at T-minus 60 seconds, be sure to listen for the call-out that Falcon 9 is in startup mode. This means that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers have taken over the launch countdown, and we humans are no longer in the loop. The Starlink payload continues to be healthy. The Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket at the moment. Weather's looking good, and the range is still green for launch. So with that, there's nothing left to do except listen in to the last few minutes of the terminal countdown. You can actually see those clamps up on the transport erector have begun to open. And if you watch closely, you can maybe even see it begin to retract.
Strong back lower started.
And the retracting process has just begun if you watch it closely. Behind that liquid oxygen that's boiling to regular oxygen.
Strong back lowers closed out.
Stage 1 LOX load closed out.
So RP1 loading and LOX loading on our first stage has completed. We're waiting for the LOX loading on our second stage to complete. And then after that, the startup mode call out. T-minus 2 minutes to liftoff.
Stage 2 launch load closed out.
Ground gas closeouts.
Falcon 9 from startup.
LDs go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff. Disregard. We have an abort.
Launch board is running.
As you may have heard, we had an abort condition just prior to liftoff. We're going to listen to the nets, hopefully have more information and share it with you soon.
So launch abort on engine high power.
As you just heard on our countdown nets, we had a condition regarding engine power that caused us to abort today's launch. Prior to that, the countdown was proceeding nominally, but keep in mind the purpose of the countdown is to help us catch potential issues prior to flight. There are 1,000 ways a launch can go wrong and only one way it can go right. Given that we are overly cautious on the ground, and if the team or the vehicle sees anything that just looks even slightly off, we'll stop the countdown. Overall, the vehicle appears to be in good health, but that will end our launch attempt for today. Please stay in touch with our social media and web platforms for that next launch opportunity. Hopefully you'll join us again for that next attempt. Until then, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Hey everybody, Raw Space here. So we've obviously had an abort due to some sort of condition at T-0 with the engine power. I'm sure that SpaceX will let us know later exactly what happened. But since we're here, I can answer some more questions for you if you wish. Also, try to minimize the coronavirus references in the chat. They're really not useful. Mir Korosiel asks, "Did the computer stop the sequence automatically?" Yeah, they much of the launch sequence is well, in fact, the entire launch sequence is controlled automatically. They have abort conditions programmed into the system so that, you know, depending on whether they're getting strange readings from sensors or you know, other conditions that may arise, the system will shut down the launch automatically. And that's because the system can respond to a myriad of different parameters much more quickly than humans can. Additionally, they can always abort manually, but yeah. Station 240, no, the ice buildup on the tank is completely normal, and that's because the liquid oxygen oxidizer that they have in the rocket is cryogenic, meaning it's very, very cold, like negative whatever. Look up the temperature for liquid oxygen. And as a result, it causes the humidity in the air around the rocket to condense on the outside, just like if you have a glass of very cold water. If you have a glass of ice water, the moisture in the air around the glass will condense on it. And instead of condensing down to liquid, it condenses all the way. It condenses and then freezes. So you end up with a whole bunch of ice buildup on the outside of the rocket. Now, if you have a solid rocket booster, that's not cryogenic. It's a combustible polymer, almost like a rubber. So, you know, on a solid rocket booster or a solid fueled rocket booster, you're not going to get ice buildup. Similarly, the kerosene tank, the RP1 fuel that they use in the Falcon 9, that's also not cryogenic. It's regular temperature. So only the oxygen, or in the case of Starship, both the liquid oxygen and the liquid methane are cryogenic. And in the case of Falcon, in the case of the Saturn V, Saturn V actually used essentially the same fuels as the Falcon 9 does. That is RP1 kerosene and in the first stage, RP1 kerosene and liquid oxygen. So only the cryogenic fuels produce the ice buildup on the outside of the tank. Just my opinion. Have we ever been beyond lower Earth atmosphere? Yes, of course. We've been into low Earth orbit, and a few times we went outside of low Earth orbit to get to the moon. But the vast majority of the time that humanity spent outside of Earth's atmosphere was in low Earth orbit. But then you had the Apollo missions, which went beyond that. Mark Desire, thank you for catching the spam bots. Those things are a plague. Oh, Max Crew. Didn't see you sneak in there. Yeah, thank you. Hal, I do hope that we don't have you to blame for this abort. Yeah, P. Stone mentions that there's no ice buildup in the tank. That's correct. The ice buildup is on the outside of the tank. Inside the tank is liquid oxygen. Trying to find the questions amongst the spam. Maria, thank you. I appreciate it. So Tyler Croft asks if the live will come back on. Not today. Whenever there's an abort, the minimum you can expect, well, unless they have a launch window that extends for multiple hours, and they have a hold which requires that they cycle the rocket to a hold condition and then resume the countdown at a later time that same day. Usually when there's a scrub or an abort, the minimum you can expect is a one-day turnaround. But when there's an event like this where it is all ready to go and suddenly there's an issue at the last second, that usually results in multiple days of delay. So I would expect that Starlink 5 probably won't launch for at least a few days. But we'll have to stay tuned to the Raw Space schedule / SpaceX Twitter to see when they're going to launch. Also, I need to shout out Lab Padre. So they have a 24/7. If you like SpaceX, if you like to see what SpaceX is up to, Lab Padre has a 24/7 live stream, actually multiple 24/7 live streams of the Starship, the process of Starship development in Boca Chica, Texas. The live streams from Lab Padre and the other, I guess, S Padre or whoever, Maria Pointer, whoever else has live streams down there in Boca Chica, are the only reason that we have video of the pressure testing anomalies that destroyed both the Mark 1 and the SN1 starships. So if we didn't have those folks down there working hard to provide us with live footage, we wouldn't have that video at all. So big ups to them. Tyler Croft. All right, what is all this notifications here? Let's see what SpaceX has to say. I get SpaceX notifications because all right, SpaceX standing down today. Standing down today. Standard auto-abort triggered due to out-of-family data during engine power check. Will announce next launch date opportunity once confirmed on the range. So, nothing we don't already know except out-of-family data during engine power check, which appeared to happen really at the last moment because it was already beginning to fire when it aborted. You saw those clouds coming from the exhaust channel. Okay, Tyler Croft asks, how many satellites are there in orbit of the Earth? That depends on what you consider to be a satellite. So if you're talking about an intact device that provides or used to provide, services to folks on the ground, then there are, I guess, around 6,000 now, something like that. Only maybe half of those are still active. There's a lot of dead satellites floating around up there. And that's because either they failed, either if they were operational, either they stopped working or they simply weren't designed to deorbit themselves, or something like that. But nowadays, what we try to do, what launch providers try to do, or actually what satellite manufacturers try to do, is build into the satellite the capability to deorbit themselves at the end of their life. Now, if they stop working, then, there's not much you can do. They're just going to keep orbiting until they eventually deorbit due to the slight drag from stray oxygen atoms, far above Earth's atmosphere, because even at the altitude of the ISS and beyond, there are still stray atoms floating around that provide drag on satellites. And so the bigger your satellite, so for example, the ISS is really huge. It's the size of a football field. And okay. Goodbye, just my opinion. You're obviously here to troll. We do not play that game. So large objects like the space station, they induce quite a bit of drag from the stray atoms that are floating around at that altitude, because the atmosphere, there's no hard edge to the atmosphere, despite what flat earthers might try to tell you. The atmosphere is a continuum, so it starts at 14 point something pounds per square inch at sea level, and as you go higher, it gets less and less until eventually it gets to be almost nothing. But it never gets to actually nothing. Even, what was it, hydrogen atoms that are extend all the way beyond the moon, that are still bound to Earth gravitationally. So technically, you could say that Earth's atmosphere extends beyond the moon. But the trolls like to latch onto that headline and try to turn it against us, but they're only doing that because they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. And the fact is that the sun's atmosphere actually extends beyond Pluto, because technically the atmosphere is the region of space where you have atoms of gas that are gravitationally bound to an object, and there are gravitationally bound atoms well beyond Pluto from the sun. Okay, we've got more questions. Next ISS astronaut launch in April. Okay. And that will be on a Soyuz, because obviously we don't have the Crew Dragon and Starship, and Starliner options quite ready yet. G-Man 2030 asks, if SpaceX delivers all Starlinks, what does that do to launch windows to the moon and back? Well, space is really, really big. So if you imagine the entire surface of the Earth, and then make that bigger, that's space. So the Earth is really big, and therefore the space above the Earth is really big. So even if you have tens of thousands of satellites up there, the vast, vast majority of the space above us is empty. And consider also that on the surface of the Earth, you have one layer basically of stuff, whereas in space you have many, many layers of stuff. You have thousands of miles of altitude in which you can orbit things. Now, some regions of that volume are not ideal for orbiting stuff in, because you've got the Van Allen radiation belts, which can wreak havoc on electronics, which is why you have low Earth orbit, and then you have medium Earth orbit in between the Van Allen belts, and then you have your high Earth orbit and geostationary, geosynchronous orbits way beyond. But so Freshwater Boy, the Oort cloud. We have evidence for the Oort cloud, but it's never been directly observed. We haven't actually seen the Oort cloud, but we believe it's there, and we have evidence that it's there in the behavior of long-term comets. But again, we don't have direct evidence. DJ Sasha Cross asks, how do I like Russian combat magic? This is just the beginning. Well, that sounds really exciting. I would like to see some Russian combat magic to complement the Russian dashcam videos I love to watch so much. Okay, we've got Mel O'Brien asking, doesn't a stainless steel rocket weigh far more than aluminum? Anybody want to fly to the moon with these people, or Mars? Van Allen belts, blah, blah, blah. If you're trying to sort of obliquely imply that we can't get past Van Allen belts, that's not correct. Van Allen belts are regions of charged particles from the sun that have been captured by Earth's magnetic fields, and they represent an increased risk to electronics because the particles can mess with especially fine electronics. So back in the Apollo era, electronics were big and, like manually soldered connections and things like that. Electronics nowadays are actually much more sensitive to disruption by stray charged particles because of the miniaturization that we've accomplished over the past few decades. So that doesn't mean that similarly, the cells of the human body can be affected by the charged particles as well. So we're all bombarded by radiation every day. It's just a part of the human condition. It's part of our existence in this universe. The price we pay is that we are subject to radiation, and that's one of the reasons why cancer continues to be such a prevalent killer of humans, because cancer oftentimes is caused by cells that are disrupted because they've been subjected to some sort of radiation which makes them not work quite correctly. But so with radiation, it's all about duration of exposure. So the inner Van Allen belts are more intense radiation. The outer Van Allen belts are less intense radiation. And during the Apollo missions, they've skirted around the inner belt and flew through the thinner portions very quickly of the outer belt. So the astronauts were exposed for a minimal amount of time. Similar to getting a few chest x-rays or, flying across country in an airplane, something like that. So it's definitely not an impassable barrier, but it is a risk factor to take into consideration, which is why we have very smart people who work on this stuff, as opposed to the internet trolls who pretend like they know what they're talking about. Tyler Croft asks, is China still creating another moon? No, I don't think China's creating a moon. I'm not sure what that's about. Jonas Marhawi asks, do I personally think that SpaceX will have humans on Mars by 2024? No, definitely not by 2024. SpaceX may have humans on Mars by 2030, possibly, but realistically, I would say maybe 2035 for Mars. And it's a total guess, but the thing is, as I mentioned earlier, we still have some big hurdles to get over as far as getting humans to Mars. First of all, when we go to the moon is a small thing, and it's not difficult to launch from. Mars is a planet, and even though it's a lot smaller than Earth, it's still a not insignificant gravity well. And anytime you descend into a gravity well, in order to get back out of it, you need additional thrust. And so part of the challenge with a Mars mission is going to be we're going to need a sizable rocket in order to get back up off of Mars, out of that gravity well. And getting large amounts of hardware into space is super expensive from Earth. And so, that's going to add complexity to the mission, because we're going to need a powerful launch system on Mars, which means we need to get that powerful launch system off of Earth first. So unfortunately, Mars is a long-term project. We're not going to see anybody on Mars in 2024, but we will probably see someone on Mars within the next 20 years, which I think people have probably been saying for the last 50 years, so we shall see. Maybe we'll have cold fusion too. Flurgy22 asks when the next Falcon Heavy launch is. Possibly this coming September. Freshwater Boy asks, where's New Horizons heading? Always good to see a New Horizons reference. So currently, New Horizons flew past Pluto a few years ago. What was it, 2015, something like that? And then last year, or a year and a quarter ago, flew past Ultima Thule, the asteroid out past Pluto, way past Pluto. So currently it is headed out into interstellar space. I think they're continuing to analyze imagery to see if they can find another object to fly past, way out there, but their trajectory is limited. It's not like, the movies where you can just zip in whatever direction you want. You're going the direction you're going. And what you do is you need to find an object that is in the direction you're going that's going to be where you are at the time you get there. So, they could get lucky, but I wouldn't be surprised if New Horizons flyby days are over. Alok Shukla asks, says radiation. Are we talking about gamma bursts or something else? So there's different forms of radiation. You've got electromagnetic radiation, which is things like light and radio waves and gamma waves, ultraviolet, infrared, microwaves. Those are all electromagnetic radiation. And so technically, even radio waves and gamma waves, you can still call that light because electromagnetic radiation consists of photons and it travels at the speed of light in a vacuum. It's kind of weird to think of gamma rays and radio waves as essentially the same thing, but they really are. They're all part of the electromagnetic spectrum at different frequencies. And they contain photons, or they consist of photons. Now, there's also particle radiation, which is high energy and by high energy, that means they're traveling very fast. Often charged particles, such as bits of atoms, things like that. Those are the things that get. So electromagnetic radiation does not get trapped by Earth's magnetosphere. Only charged particles can get trapped in Earth's magnetosphere because they're charged, and because the magnetosphere exerts a very powerful, has a very powerful electromagnetic field. The charged particles get stuck in that field, just like if you sprinkle iron filings around a magnet, they get trapped in the electromagnetic field lines of that magnet. Similarly, there are also cosmic rays, which are actually stray subatomic particles like protons, mostly protons, that are traveling very fast, close to the speed of light, that have been emitted by, some come from the sun, but most cosmic rays come from other stars, and like supernovae events and whatnot. And those are physical particles. They're not light. They're not electromagnetic radiation. And so the word radiation applies to different things. It's actually a pretty complex, pretty complex topic. P-Stone says China has a space station and is expected to be completed by or around 2022. That's not surprising. I actually don't know anything about the progress on the Chinese space station. That country is not known for their openness about what they're working on, and they don't like to play with others. So I'm not terribly concerned about what China's up to, so long as they don't lob missiles at us. X38CRV, the secondary, asks, what was the command that made Nightbot talk? It's exclamation mark font 1 through font 6. Those are the font commands. Or you can type exclamation mark fonts to get the list of commands. Flurgy, I don't remember what I pronounced, but I'm glad I did it correctly. I'm a few minutes behind because I'm trying to catch up here. Exoplanets, good to see you again. By the way, everybody, you should go subscribe to the Exoplanets channel. He produces very interesting videos about, exoplanets. X38 asks, how do I feel about Wolf-Rayet stars? I'm not familiar with those. I'd have to look them up, at which point I could tell you how I feel. Oh, Flurgy, you have to add some text after the command, or else it's not going to say anything. So, font 1 space something. Oh, there we go. Nice. Okay. Okay. So we've had an abort condition due to where's that text? Due to out of family data during engine power check, looked to be at approximately T-minus 0 seconds as the rocket was actually beginning to fire. We do not know when this Starlink launch will take place. So if I had the time to linger in the SpaceX Reddits or other SpaceX forums, NASA Spaceflight, I might know how many spare Falcon boosters they have, but it's possible they may launch this on a different booster. But first they've got to investigate what this issue was with the engine power check. In any case, yep, so we've had an abort condition. We do not know when the launch is going to take place, but if you stay tuned to either Raw Space and or SpaceX, we will bring it to you whenever it happens. Thank you all for coming, and I'll leave you with a little bit of music before ending the stream. Also, of course, bear in mind that you can always listen to the same relaxing music in our 24/7 Starman stream, which is always running, has been for the last 2 years. Although I've been having a bit of technical difficulty today. The server that's running Starman has been lagging, so I'll get that fixed in short order here in the next few minutes as this stream winds down. So thank you all again for coming, and have a great week.